Welcome to a new episode of HypnoMum Ayla, and we want to kick off by wishing everybody a very happy, healthy 2022. Mom, how was your start of the year?
Well, it's all about love. So what could be a better theme for this time?
Yes, so that's the theme of our podcast. It's all about love. And as a preparation for this podcast episode, I started looking up the definition for self-love on Wikipedia. I have it right here with me. It's quite interesting. Self-love, defined as love of self or regard for one's own happiness or advantage, has been conceptualized both as a basic human necessity and as a moral flaw akin to vanity and selfishness. And I think that's a very interesting place to start. So I already have a question for the audience. Just when we talk about the concept of self-love, how does it feel to you? Are you more towards the side of it's about taking care of yourself, or are you more to the side of it's selfish? Because that's, I think, already an interesting place to start. So let's start with Mom. Mom, what do you think? Is it more akin to, taking care of yourself, or is it more selfish and narcissistic, maybe even to love yourself?
I think, like so many things in life, it is a yin-yang situation. So it is on a continuum. And on one side, you can be the person who wants to sacrifice everything for another person. And the opposite is that everything you do is for your own glory and interest. And then you have many variations in between. And I have the belief that taking very good care of yourself in terms of feeling self-love, feeling deep love inside, taking good care of your mind, your body, is not selfish at all. When you are standing in life, you are the source. You are the source from which all has to come, all also towards others. So taking care of yourself is protecting your source. And that has nothing to do with selfishness. So I think that's my point of view. But, and we will discuss this, of course, when there is a lack of self-love, you need to grab it from the outside towards yourself. And perhaps then there is more ego in play and everything. So,
well, it brings me to a song, a Dutch song. I'm sad it's not in English, but the name of the song is I Love Myself. And it's a very funny song for the people who do speak Dutch. Look it up. Ik hou van mij. I think it's Jan Dekker. I'm not really sure.
Okay.
And the lyrics are so beautiful. And at the end of the lyrics, it's like, because if you love yourself, only then it's like you're truly giving a gift to another when you say, I love you.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I know these stories of, and maybe in your personal life, you also know this, people who have very low self-esteem or have a deep belief that they're not worthy enough, and that it can be painful to be around these people. Like it feels like you have to provide them with a lot of confidence to feel secure or to feel valued, and it can become tiring. And have you had this experience where you're with someone who, is very confident and you can be with them and it's more relaxing in a way? I don't know if you know that experience. So I understand that it can feel selfish to love yourself or to take care of yourself. And I think it also comes, in terms of taking care of your own needs. Like you, for instance, just a practical example, but you had a rough week at work. You had a lot of deadlines, so you went to bed late and you didn't have an opportunity to really cook for yourself. And then in the weekend, you have a date with friends, which has been in the calendar for a month. but inside you feel, I really need to rest.
Mhm.
And it then, you know, becomes a struggle. Like, should I cancel or not? If I cancel, it becomes selfish, maybe, you know? So I think it's, yeah, it's about the relationship with yourself, the relationship with other people. It's interesting. But yeah, obviously the example that I'm talking about, if you already, you know, go to bed every night late, if you do not cook for yourself, I believe these are also kind of examples of self-care, isn't it? Of self-love, practical applications of self-love.
Yeah. Well, I think it's difficult, but when you are very tired and basically you don't want to disappoint a friend, but in the end, if you are too tired to be in the moment with your friend, isn't that selfish as well?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's yeah, we have dilemmas in life.
yeah. But I think that people will be able to relate to this. At least I can.
Yeah.
But I've learned because, well, you know, Mom, that when I was a student, I went out quite a lot.
Mhm.
And I discovered this whole new world of parties in the night. And then I would come home in the weekend and I had my high school friends who also wanted to meet me. But the first thing that happened when I got home, I started crying to my parents because I was so tired, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
And I think along the way I learned, like, okay, you know, for me, I have to protect my sleep and I have to take care to be rested. And now actually I have a friend, and because I sometimes fall into that guilt trap, and she told me, no, Ayla, I actually appreciate it when you cancel, because I know every time you agree to meet with me, I know that you're going to be there and that you do it really from a place of wanting to be with me. So I thought that was quite inspirational. That can also be the other side. I think it's a journey.
But now the question is, what does this all has to do with hypnosis?
Good question, Mom. Yes, we're coming to that. So I guess I just want to bring you a little bit on this journey about how does self-love, how does it live within yourself? Before we get to the hypnosis, I want to ask you something else.
Mm-hmm.
What benefits are there to loving yourself? What benefits does it give when you love yourself? What does it give you in life?
Well, basically, when you have a love for yourself, you feel comfortable in your body, you feel comfortable in exchanges with people, and you have your own foundation. So if you have a crowd of people who abuse you or don't like what you do, or they don't agree with your opinion, it's easier to stick with your ideas, in case you do not want to change, of course, because we always have to be open for changes when people have good arguments. But when you have your own foundation, it can also be lonely, because then you sometimes have to decide not to go along with the opinion of the masses, but it helps you to stick within yourself. You cannot live the life of other people. And there is a beautiful saying like, how many people do you give a rented location in your head, and do they pay the rent? Or just do you give them a room and they don't pay rent? So how often are you busy in worrying what other people say and what other people do? And the more you have not this selfish love, but this deep love that you are just as important as any other.
Yeah.
And that means that you can stand for yourself.
So in other words, if I hear you correctly, it's like it becomes less important what other people think and say, and you're more able to stay within your own value system.
Yes.
And are there any other benefits?
Yeah, well, when you have also more room to listen to others, because you don't have to keep on defending.
Yeah.
And because it is what it is. If somebody else has another opinion, it is what it is. And the other is just as entitled to that other opinion as you are.
Yeah, true.
Mhm.
And in terms of physical benefits, are there any physical benefits to self-love?
Of course, it's less stressful.
Yeah.
It's less stressful if you feel at home in your body. If you, it is like being in your heart, feeling that you are there, standing for yourself.
But like, I think I read this online, like even in the long run, like people who have more self-love, it has tremendous benefit also for like physical parameters, right?
Mhm.
Like it can help you and enhance your life span,
Mhm.
right? These kind of things.
Yeah, I think if you look to the relationship with stress,
Yeah,
that is very important. The
Yeah.
moment, the more stress there is, the more you have to look, what are these stressors inside of me?
yeah,
And not having self-confidence, self-value, self-worth is a stressor.
yeah, yeah. It is stressful, and stress for the body can result in all kinds of, you know, emotional, mental complaints, but also in the long run, physical complaints, because stress, it's like these, how do you call that? Neurotransmitters, hormones that release in your bloodstream. And if there is long-term stress, the body doesn't know how to get rid of it and it accumulates inside. So there's actually a lot to say for loving yourself more. And I think probably most people already have an idea what they need to do in order to love themselves more, right? Like most people know that it's important to eat healthy food. It's important to exercise regularly. It's important to go to bed in time. It's important to nurture your relationships. It's important to also, nurture yourself, your own feelings, spend time with your feelings. So I think most of us know that.
Yeah.
And there is the connection with hypnosis, because if we know that, why don't we practice it? And I know because it's 5th of January when we're recording this podcast. So a lot of people around me, they are full on New Year's resolutions.
Yes.
And New Year's.
Quit smoking.
Excellent action of self-love. Perfect.
Yeah.
And people can, they have these intentions and they really want to make it work. And how long does it take? A week, 2 weeks? I heard a report on the news that New Year's resolutions, the majority of people loses their resolution within the first week.
I see. That's very fast.
I don't know if I remember, but it was like, and of course we, with the background of hypnosis, know why. Because when you do something from willpower, you're using your conscious mind, and your conscious mind is like 5 to 10% of your whole mind's capacity. And there is another 90 to 95% below the surface, the iceberg, that is not visible. And that is steering us from the background. And it has kind of this drive to protect us against real danger and imagined danger. So there's no difference, right? For the subconscious mind, something that's real and something that's imagined. And for instance, in the case of smoking, once picking up that cigarette was a strategy for survival. And it became a habit in the subconscious mind. And once it becomes a habit, the subconscious mind just thinks, no, we need to protect with that cigarette. We need to protect. It's just like a machine running. It doesn't make choices. It doesn't change. It just operates on the software that's installed there. So when you encounter a blockage, when you try to change something with willpower, then you're running into the subconscious mind.
Yeah, it doesn't want to change.
No, it doesn't want to change. So, and I think what you have in the subconscious mind is feelings, right? That's the realm of the feelings, the emotions, but it's also the place where our, how do you call that? Our convictions, our core beliefs are stored. So think back of the question I asked you in the beginning. Like, do you believe self-love is more selfish? Or is it more like taking care of yourself? And what if early on you were taught that taking care of yourself is selfish? then you're trying to take care of yourself, but deep within you, there might be this belief that, yeah, it's selfish to do that. So it's not an acceptable thing to do for the subconscious mind. And that's where hypnosis can actually help you to change core beliefs, to see where do they come from, and are they still relevant? Are they still up to date? It's like updating your software.
Yeah, well, in the case of smoking, it's of course that the subconscious mind wants to generate this feeling of being accepted, of safety.
Yeah.
And it doesn't want to lose that feeling. So you can think with your conscious mind what you want, but the subconscious mind, if it is not on board, it's a difficult case.
Yeah. It takes a lot of willpower to change.
Mm-hmm.
And I hear people that quit smoking and they are successful they can be successful for a year, for 6 months, and maybe even for life. Hey, I'm not here to say that you cannot change on willpower. I will never say that. I just think it requires a lot of willpower. And I think willpower can also be different in different people.
But it's interesting, the people I know that quit smoking by their own, you always hear that there is a thought process of weeks before they stop. So they are processing something already in their subconscious mind.
Okay.
Yeah, that's very interesting to hear. The people who really are able to do that by themselves. It is a process. It's not from day one to zero. At least as far as I heard people about that.
Okay. Well, and what I also hear is that sometimes people can fall back into smoking even when they were successful a year or maybe longer. And usually it has to do with a big stressor in life, like the death of a mother, like a divorce, like these kind of situations that bring intense emotion that can bring somebody back to that need for smoking. And I guess that's with hypnosis, when we look at smoking cessation, well, it will differ per hypnotherapist that you will visit because there are different methods.
Oh, so many.
Yeah, so
every hypnotherapist, in fact, makes in the end their own methods.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But I think when we look at sort of the way Omni works, is we work with regression. And what regression entails is that we do an analysis of what is the real cause that you're smoking, or what is the real cause that you're not able to make healthy food for yourself? What is the real cause that you cannot go to sleep in time? You know, what is the real cause that you keep prioritizing other people's need over your own needs? And that's where we go and we change things. And that's where we see long-term effects.
Interesting is that, as a sidebar, most of the time we check the self-love as well. Because usually these problems start mostly when they are a child. Those problems, the most clients come with problems that started in childhood.
Yeah.
And there was a lack of love at that moment as well. And that is so beautiful that we can work on this self-love with the inner child techniques.
Yeah. I think this is also an interesting story that for the people that are hypnotherapists and who are trained to work with regression, that sometimes it can feel like pressure doing regression with a client. What if it doesn't work? What if I don't get them deep enough? And I remember you, and this was a very inspiring story, and I think I shared it in another podcast also, but that mom had a client, regression didn't work, and you did a very strong inner child therapy.
Yeah.
So you don't even need regression for that. And that client had a lot of benefits just because this self-love.
Yeah, it solved the problem.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, I also want to share my own experience, because I had a beautiful inner child therapy, I think 2 years ago. So when it was just after I started on the path of being a hypnotist, and I came out of another job as a primary school teacher, and my self-esteem was very low. And I remember mom was like, hey, maybe you should work with, children and help them with study problems. And I started crying. I'm like, Mom, I failed miserably. How can I be the person to do that? And you're just like so compassionate and so sad. And you're like, it just makes me sad to hear you speak about yourself like that way. Maybe, maybe you should do some therapy yourself. And I said, yeah, who? So you forwarded me to another Omni therapist, and had a really beautiful session. And I connected with my inner child. And I remember that moment in the session. It was a little bit of an adapted inner child, but I imagined myself as a younger girl. And that younger girl was sitting in a very dirty dress, like this. Oh, for the people who cannot see this, because they're listening to it, like, how do you, that posture where you're just like all curled inside, making yourself small. And the therapist asked me, what does this little girl need? And I was really feeling helpless. I was like, I don't know. And she was like, does she need a hug? And I just didn't feel like hugging her. And then suddenly this imagination came in my mind, which was like, maybe I can put her on a swing. And that moment, it was so powerful. When I put her on a swing, I can see it now again when I close my eyes. That dirty dress, it became like a wild dress. Like this was a child like running in nature, not caring about getting dirty, like so playful, so intensely enjoying. I can even cry right now when I talk about it. Yeah. Oh, now I feel embarrassed. So now that thing comes up of like, oh, you should not, talk about loving yourself that much. I think it's maybe also a little bit on our culture.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just a beautiful scene, and she came to life, and I experienced love for her. And after that session, so much has changed for me. Really, I cannot even believe where my level of confidence is now when I compare it to when I just started out. It's like it's a world of difference. And even immediately after the session, I noticed this joy within myself. So, and the funny thing is, people notice it. So I was on my way back from that session in the train. People started laughing at me. They started interacting with me. And on the train ride back, I actually finished the development of the logo of my company, which was like a big project for me. And creativity is something that's really important for me. So on my logo, and I'm super proud of it, is like this image of this swing. And that's something that in my work as a therapist that I feel really passionate about, helping people to kind of connect to that joy, that playfulness, that innocence that we all had as a child. And it's so sad when we grow up, we get so serious, we get all these responsibilities, and we lose that we can kind of lose that feeling of innocence. But I truly believe we all have it. And how beautiful would the world be if we could all see each other in that way? Hallelujah. Okay, I'm
No, it's beautiful, Ayla. Your logo is beautiful, a school of joy. I think that all has to do with this same theme.
Yeah. I really think that if everybody would just love themselves a little bit more, there would be less war in the world. I feel that. Yeah. So if you didn't have a resolution for this year, maybe this is a beautiful one, to love yourself more. And I would really enjoy hearing from the listeners, the viewers, what do you do to love yourself? Like, yeah, please feel free to share it, to send a DM to me. I would love to hear that. And is there anything you want to say to conclude this podcast?
No, I think the whole story and your illustration about it, very personal story, tells a whole story in itself. And what we can do with this beautiful hypnosis.
Yes. So before we end the podcast, we always like to remind you that if you want to experience hypnosis yourself, feel free to go to our websites, and specifically the hypnosis community. We have a Dutch version and an English version. You can find the links below, and you can find free audio tapes there. And I would like to end this podcast in the immortal words of one of my idols, RuPaul, from RuPaul's Drag Race. If you can't love yourself, how in the hell are you going to love somebody else? Can I get an amen up in here?
Okay.
Okay, bye. See you.
Bye. See you next time, we hope. Bye.
Bye.